Hello, everyone. Welcome to our panel today. It is a pleasure to be with you all. Just for questions, you know that you have a swap card. That's the downloaded app. And online questions for our panelists, just please go ahead and put that in the chat. We'll try to get those at the end. So my name is Erin Fitzgerald. I am CEO of U.S. Farmers and Ranchers in Action, a nonprofit organization led by farmers and ranchers and value chain partners to co-create the sustainable food systems of the future. We are also the Secretariat for a Decade of Agriculture, a shared vision for 2030 that is now endorsed by over 160 CEOs and chairs. Our panel today will focus on public-private partnerships and the need for collaboration to increase accessible and affordable food options, particularly in the underserved communities. But maybe most importantly, our panel will focus on the power of people behind these efforts. Those who are truly leaning into their strengths to make things happen and to take action. We come here together recognizing that during the COVID-19 pandemic, the food system bent. And for many, it bent very hard. But it did not break. During this health crisis, we came together like never before, farmers and ranchers in partnership with community leaders. We learned that food impacts our communities and national security. For our farmers and ranchers, partnering with leaders ensure access, and that is essential. We also need to highlight the importance of trust. Think of this. During a health crisis, over 2 billion photos were taken of dinner plates. For many, there were no dinner plates. But make no mistake, food is a sense of solace, a sense of thanksgiving, recognizing that the value of food on our plates, not just for ourselves, but also our neighbors. Now, more than ever, we have learned many lessons and understand the importance of partnering together with our farmers and community members. Every harvest matters, every acre matters, and our farmers are the footprints, the boots, but they must match our handprints. And these community leaders will be able to talk today about what that means. Our farmers tend to represent that first mile, and these leaders we have with us to share their story represent that last mile in getting food to people. In fact, these are leaders we have with us today that represented and went further and beyond that last mile. They took it up, their handprints, to a whole new level, block by block, car by car, even down to the strategic times when people needed food and could be received. I am honored to be here today and consider these panelists who have passion and compassion to meet the moment, who mobilize true action. All of us here today recognize that it's going to require unbelievable action and the strength in all of us, whether that be for our farmers and ranchers and the fundamental role they play in the food system, and leaders like these who are with us today who work tirelessly to get food to the underserved. Let's meet these handprint leaders. So let's first focus on that accessibility of food and your commitment and fortitude to expand the access to the underserved. Mary, talk to us. You completely envisioned this whole new notion of what a retail could look like in your community.
Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Mary Blackford, and I am the founder of Market 7. And Market 7 is a community marketplace that features Black-owned businesses for the purpose of alleviating food and retail deserts in Washington, D.C. I started Market 7 because I got hungry, really hungry. I became a vegetarian after college and quickly realized we did not have very much access to fresh and sustainable foods east of the river in Wards 7 and 8 here in Washington, D.C. I found myself going from my home all the way to the other side of the city, spending $20 round trips in Ubers and Lyfts to get access to food. Now, to put this into perspective, we have 3 grocery stores in Ward 7 and Ward 8 to actually feed 160,000 residents that live there. Now, to put this in further perspective, there are single wards in the city that have up to 12 grocery stores. And these communities do not look like the one that I come from, which is primarily African American. We have a food apartheid issue east of the river. And this means there is a long history of discriminatory practices against communities of color, particularly Black communities, that make it really hard for us to actually access and keep retail in our communities. So I looked at so many of the things that were going on, and I was like, how do we just get a better grocery store? And when I started to reach out and ask people, where is that grocery store going to come from? They said, Mary, that is not going to come. The area median income here is too low. And that was not good enough for me, because people who live in Ward 7 and Ward 8, they are dying up to 16 years earlier than people who live on the other side of the river from things like diabetes and heart disease, things that can be solved in part or altogether through a change of diet. And so I said, you know what, we can do our own market. So over the last 5 years, we've worked with 80 Black-owned businesses to create alternative pop-up markets that offer fresh and sustainable foods, lifestyle products, and home essentials right in our own community. And now, with the help of the Food Access Fund here in Washington, D.C., the Healthy Food Financing Initiative from the USDA, and grant opportunities like the Build Your Legacy grant opportunity from Essence and Pine Sol, we are now developing the first Black-owned food hall in Washington, D.C., 7,000 square feet. 7,000 square feet of a new food hall right here in the nation's capital in Ward 7. 8 new Black-owned food businesses coming to our ward over the next year that will offer fresh and sustainable foods to the community. We also believe in putting equity on shelves. So we've worked with Whole Foods Market to launch 4 new Black businesses in 2020 in Whole Foods. And they performed so well, that we won 2021's Supplier of the Year for Whole Foods Mid-Atlantic. So this is how we're making catalytic change where we are.
Community, Black by Black, I love it. Kamahu, you took your strengths to a whole new level as well, and talk to us about how you use technology really to think about helping and supporting communities.
Awesome, thank you. And hello everyone, my name is Kamahu Witherspoon. I am the CEO of Shipt. We are a technology company, and we focus primarily on grocery delivery. We're available in over 5,000 cities across the United States today. Roughly 80% of U.S. households have access to order off of our platform, and we're honored to work with over 160 retailers nationally. And I'm excited to be here today as well, because issues related to food insecurity and hunger are issues that are personal to me. And while it wasn't something that we had to deal with on a consistent basis, I vividly remember, times as a child, I'm hungry and go to the kitchen, open up the refrigerator to get something to eat, and there's nothing there. Now, to my mom's credit, she was always able to figure it out, as moms are able to do. And I never knew where the food came from. It just showed up. I don't know if someone brought it over, if it was delivered. It just showed up in the fridge because she figured it out, right? But what I did know is that it always brought a smile to her face. And I know provided her some relief, knowing that in those moments when times were tough, at least she could put a meal on the table. So I'm happy that we're talking about these issues, because far too many Americans face food insecurity in our country. Now, when I think about our company, Shipt, we're a company that's a people-first company. Our values are rooted in putting people first. It's at the heart of everything that we do, and it's a part of our company's DNA. And we know that when we're able to combine our delivery capabilities with our personal shopping and our technology, we can, kind of extend the reach of retailers and, reduce and in some cases actually remove the barriers that exist that people have with accessing food. And so one of the new commitments that we're excited to announce, and we actually announced this today, is our new accelerator. This is an accelerator that combines our values around putting people first and doing our part to help tackle issues around food insecurity, and our passion for supporting small business. One of the things that we know is that if we can support those small retailers and extend their reach into food deserts, we can do our part to, again, give more people access to healthy and affordable foods, particularly those who have mobility and transportation issues, right? And so one of the things that we looked at as we started contemplating this idea was there was a recent Brookings Institute study that revealed that a little over 90% of people that live in food deserts, they actually already live within a delivery zone of a food delivery company like ours. But when we went and talked to some of those retailers about extending that reach and just asked them the question, well, why aren't you on our platform or platforms like this today? And what they told us was they just didn't have the resources, they didn't have the capital. And so our accelerator is really all around closing those gaps. We're gonna provide them with capital, We are going to provide them with e-commerce specific business education, and we're also going to provide them with access to industry experts that will help them figure out how to not only launch on a platform like ours, but thrive and compete for years to come. So we're really excited about that. And in fact, just yesterday, there's a small locally owned retailer called Lafayette Foods. They're based right in the heart of Detroit. And our team at Shipt has been helping them get up to speed with education, with technology. And we just launched Lafayette yesterday. So we're really happy about that. We're their first online marketplace. We're really proud of their ability to now extend their reach into their community, which is a food desert, and ensure their success as a business for years to come.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you for sharing. So, while there are clear opportunities to take that technology into new areas, let's talk about removing that idea of barriers to food. We talked about leveraging the internet, but we know that there's still some of this digital divide, and digital literacy can be real. As you think about this and the different need states of people and really meeting them where they are, Mindy, can you tell us about your efforts there and thinking about food access from a different lens?
Yes, hi, good afternoon. I'm Mindy Woods, come from Edmonds, Washington, outside the Seattle area. And in my city, they had never even had a human services division before, and so they created one after I advocated for it, and it started in May of 2020, right after COVID hit. And we were the county where the first documented case was announced, and so we had COVID everywhere. And so right away, we were getting calls from people who didn't have food, couldn't make their rent, all of the basic needs that they were struggling to accomplish. And immediately everyone was putting out there the message, oh, for a COVID test, just go online and sign up here. And we quickly realized there are a lot of people who, A, their internet was shut off because they were out of work, or don't have technology or computers in the first place, or are not technologically savvy. And so that was just a big barrier. So we recognized that right off the bat, and so we started with reaching out via our senior center, our VA center, different avenues through the food bank, and finding out who didn't have that internet connection. And then from there, we realized, okay, well, that's also going to be people who are going to need food. And so we've done a lot of different partnerships within the city, and I can't take credit for all of them. Our food bank executive director is amazing, but she has been partnering with our senior center to make sure that they're doing food delivery every week to seniors at home or people with different disabilities and not able to get out. Certainly when COVID was very rampant, we were trying to make sure people were staying at home, so we were adding that many more people to the delivery. And then recently, we have a community court, and a lot of the people that are needing to come to community court, their crimes are crimes of poverty. And so we recognized right off the bat that a lot of those folks, food might be an issue, but it's also a way to draw people in. It's a way to create community, create relationship, and trust. And so I partnered with our community court and our food bank, and our community court got a grant, and so I asked, in your grant, can we get a refrigerator set up in our neighborhood office where we're doing the community court, and then we'll have the food bank deliver food, and we'll have pre-orders for the defendants that needed to come to court. They can just have an order form filled out online, and the court can help them do that if they don't have internet access. So they're signing up for them and doing their food order. So when they come to court, they take care of those issues, but they leave with a bag of food. They leave with a resource list. They're connected. They're feeling that they've not been shunned or cast aside. And it's just an opportunity once more to lift people up out of their circumstances. And I just think food is something we all need, and it's something that it can draw us together. And so we're looking for any opportunity that we can. The other thing that we're doing is I have lived experience with homelessness. And I was a single mom, a veteran, had a 13-year-old boy with type 1 diabetes. Trying to find nutritious food on an EBT SNAP card without blowing my entire month's budget on the nutritious food that my son needed, because crackers and top ramen and that kind of thing, that's not what he could have. So I got really savvy at learning, the nutritional needs and what would best serve both of us. We both have autoimmune issues. Going forward now, our county has purchased a motel that we will be using as bridge housing for folks in our community that are unhoused. I've already talked with our executive director of the food bank. We've already got it set up before that program's even going. We will have food delivery to every person that is in that motel. They don't have to worry about coming down and transportation issues and all of that. We will have the food delivered to them. So we're always thinking of ways that we can get food to people and make sure that their needs, their basic needs at least, are being met.
Just meeting them where they are. Deanna, I know this is a topic you as well think a lot about, meeting people where they are, often and being very immersed in the issues of rural America and food access, in particular rural America. Would you please just share what solutions you've discovered?
Sure. Well, I'm Diana Tellefson Torres. I'm the executive director of the United Farm Workers Foundation. And the cruel irony is that farm workers nourish this country, and yet they have a hard time putting food on their table. And so we really need to look at the root causes that make farm workers so uniquely vulnerable. And so looking at structural barriers, farm workers in the 1930s were excluded from labor protections, overtime pay. To this day, they don't have the right to unionize in this country. And so we really need to step back and look at what are some of these key solutions that address the challenges that farm workers face in a holistic way. And so as we're looking at policy solutions, immigration is so critical. Half of farm workers are undocumented in this country. And so you can imagine the level of fear that they have in even accessing some of the wonderful programs that do exist. And so, this is why we worked with some of the largest grower associations, when you talk about partnership, in this country to negotiate the Farm Workforce Modernization Act. This is a bipartisan bill, in fact, the most bipartisan immigration bill in many, many years that would allow farm workers the opportunity for a path to citizenship. And, passed in the House with 30 Republican supporters. We, during this congressional session, should pass it through the Senate. It makes sense. In addition to that, unionization is so key as well. And I want to read to you President Biden's very clear statement during the Labor Day weekend in support of the Agricultural Labor Relations Act, which is AB 2183. He said, "The least we owe farm workers is an easier path to make a free and fair choice to organize a union. And government should work to remove, not erect, barriers." And we're hopeful that Governor Newsom in California will agree with President Biden. And I think, yes, thank you. Please connect with the governor if you can. And in addition to policy, we really recognize that working with community-based organizations that have very deep relationships with farm workers on the ground were so key to the many solutions during the pandemic in particular to try to address food insecurity. And I'll speak about that in a little bit.
So let's follow up on this expanding access in rural communities, really, on food access. You talked when we were talking in the prep, you mentioned a lot about unshadowed and really making certain that we're able to get that food access. What worked and what could get to scale for food in rural communities?
Yeah, well, community-based organizations that have the knowledge, that are embedded in the communities where farm workers live, many times very isolated rural communities, are essential. The organizations that understand what are the structural needs and the structural solutions, because they're hearing directly from the community, are very, very important. And so, I want to lift up, as I know Secretary Vilsack was with us today, the fact that the U.S. Department of Agriculture and the Biden-Harris administration announced the Farm and Food Worker Relief Program. This is going to be a program that will be implemented hopefully later this year, where farm workers, meat packing workers, essentially the frontline workers that while many of us were working from home, kept working, will have the ability to get a relief payment for this disaster. And so we hope that this is not the only time that this will happen, where USDA is partnering with intermediaries that are organizations that know the population well. And so, taking into account that many farm workers are undocumented, that they often are afraid. There are farm workers who are indigenous workers who don't necessarily speak Spanish or English. And then there's also cultural issues at hand when we're talking about food, where many farm workers, may access food that they don't really know how to cook, for instance. And just giving an example of a way that we worked with food banks during the pandemic, we were able to lift up the fact that farm workers were providing us feedback that they were not really receiving this food assistance because it was being provided during hours when farm workers were working. So you're talking about workers who are often working 10, 12. Recently, I heard in Georgia from workers who are working 16-hour days. And so really just the mere schedule of being able to provide a food distribution, partner with a food bank and a community-based organization that can do the necessary outreach so that farm workers actually know that this is available is super important. And so I look forward to continue to work specifically with the USDA to see how we can make this next program successful to address some of the basic needs that farm workers have out there.
Great. Thanks for sharing, Mindy. Thanks for sharing, Deanna. Mindy, let's turn to you, and let's go talk a little bit more and dig in on the how you operationalize, local partnerships. So you really went to this level about building these to-go bags that were kind of, I would say, met the moment and the need state. Can you talk about how that experience can help us get to scale, and what can we learn from that?
Yeah, so having had lived experience with being homeless, I, in my job, was thinking how, we had a housing crisis before COVID hit, and certainly it had just, blew up after COVID hit our area. And more people were out, either out on the street or car camping, as we call it, or in motels, wherever they could find a safe place to stay. And but food access was definitely a barrier, and certainly as there was workforce shortages and different restaurants were shut down, so all these different opportunities for people to get food was becoming more and more challenging. So I partnered with our local police station. We ordered kind of water-resistant bags with reflector strips, and we ordered all kinds of portable, non-perishable food, but that was as nutritious as you could get it, and made-to-go bags. And so those are given out. We've got our police officers have them in their cars. We've got our Parks and Rec trucks have them in their cars when they come across people in our parks. We have them in our Human Services office, and then we also have them up in our neighborhood satellite office. And then the food bank is also, I talked with them as well, and I said, be thinking in terms of the weight that somebody has to carry, all of their possessions. And so they started thinking in those kinds of terms, and I said, put them on your own back and tell me what it feels like. Add your sleeping bag, add a bag of clothes. Think in terms of, if you're having to be mobile, how are you also going to nourish your body? So they've been putting together different bags as well. And so when we have our food distribution days on Mondays and Tuesdays, they've got bags set aside that if somebody just walks up, then they've got something that's easy for them to hand out. And again, with resource card inside, my number in it, and we have a care coordinator that does some case management. So we're just really, again, trying to think of all of the different barriers that we can possibly overcome.
You really got in there and distributed. It was unbelievable. That story is amazing. And then, Mary, let's talk about how you really thought about this need state in a different way, from training to the retailers and technical assistance, and really thought about how you can get to scale in local communities. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, so Market 7, I like to say that our work kind of sits at the intersection of sustainable health. Of course, bringing more food into community, healthy food options into communities, making sure that people are eating well, getting the health education that they need. So that's one part of our work. Another part of our work is economic sustainability for our businesses, right? So how are we building businesses that are viable in communities and can stay here for the long haul? And a lot of that work that we're doing is being done by small businesses. So how do we get them the support that they need to do what they need to do to keep us all healthy? And when I was working with Sibley Memorial Hospital's Ward Infinity program, which we incubated out of, we learned about how to design around a human-centered design. And we have to start thinking about our small businesses in that same sort of way. What do they need? And so we started to partner with Grow with Google, Johnny Bailey, our Google digital coach, that really helped us do trainings with our entrepreneurs about building a website, SEO, how to find customers online, how do you get to the people in the community that you really want to service. Working also with the Greater Washington Urban League to have business plan training. How do we scale your financials? How do we scale your reach in terms of branding? How do you work with government to get further opportunities? And having those conversations with entrepreneurs and the training. And we also do a lot of advocacy for our small businesses as well. So as we push for things like the Food Bill of Rights through WANDA, or more tax increment financing for small businesses, or commercial inclusionary zoning, these are all ideas that I have. As we push for those things, we want to advocate for them to be in the place they need to be to actually get those opportunities when they come. And so that's what we've been doing.
And can you speak a little bit more to the retailer training that you were doing, like the pop-up inside the retailer?
Yeah, so we do a lot of different sorts of pop-ups. And so what we're doing a lot of the times is working with other organizations, bringing the Market 7 food hall to market. And we will continue to have those pop-ups where we are. And so we'll have farmers market pop-ups at Market 7 on the weekends. We'll have pop-ups in other retailers that allow us to come in community, and also have pop-ups that feature a lot of urban farmers, local farmers, and working with partners that allow us to bring fresh and sustainable foods to those communities.
Thank you. I love this idea of the pop-up. That's getting to scale. So Kamau, let's talk as well about powerful partnerships. You know, here we just heard about partnering with the food bank, partnering in the community. You also have an example of unbelievable partnerships, kind of uncommon. Can you explain that? And then what can we learn from that to get to scale?
Yeah, I think what we know is that partnerships are key. If we're going to truly solve issues around food insecurity and hunger in this country, we're going to have to come together at the local level, the federal level, public sector, private sector, all working together to solve this issue once and for all. And so one example of a partnership that we're very excited about is one that we entered into with the University of Michigan back in 2019. So SHIPT, the University of Michigan, and with the support of the NIH, we actually kicked off a pilot program whereby we would deliver fresh food to young pregnant mothers who identified as low income. Now, what we loved about working with the University of Michigan is that they have such great insights and such rich research that helped inform our approach to a pilot like this. And what they really enjoyed about working for us is that we actually have a healthy choice integration right in our app, where program participants could actually search for those healthy items that they needed to get them through pregnancy, while at the same time actually use credits provided through the pilot to pay for the items. And so the response from the participants was incredible. Their diet improved. They had far greater and more consistent access to healthy foods, and we saw that we were able to help them promote just healthy habits during pregnancy. So that's great for the mom and good for the baby as well. And so that's one example of a partnership that we are so excited about. And you know, what this research suggests is that there's an opportunity to do more. And so, you know, things like WIC, making that eligible for food delivery, or even covering the cost of home delivery, of healthy items through programs like this. That partnership that we have been in with the University of Michigan, it was made possible with the support of the federal government. And so when we talk about partnerships, across all sectors, that's the way we're truly going to solve this issue. Some of the next steps for us are, we're not done. And so the next phase of this partnership with the University of Michigan is we're going to start supporting people that suffer from type 2 diabetes. Again, we're going to offer them free food delivery, that low carbohydrate diet that people who suffer from type 2 diabetes need. Again, we're going to study, understand those results, and then figure out how we scale from there. And scaling is what we do. Like, we're a tech company. We, on an ongoing basis, all aspects of our business, we start small, we try to gather learnings, we iterate, and then we scale. And so, one of the things that we're doing, as I mentioned earlier at the top of the panel today, is, we're in 5,000 U.S. cities today. 80% of U.S. households have access to order from our service. And so in 2023, we're actually going to take some of those learnings from this partnership with Michigan and actually embed the ability to search for healthy items based on meal planning that you need to do or dietary restrictions to all of our customers. And so we're going to be doing that in 2023. We're really excited about that. And we're also in ongoing conversations with our retailers to add SNAP benefits as well.
So a lot of lessons learned on the scale business. I mean, going to that whole nother need state, particularly for type 2 diabetes.
Exactly.
Just really excited to kind of think of a quick lightning round for you guys. When I listen to you, I hear the passion, but most importantly, the compassion for really meeting the need state of the underserved. I would like us to just imagine and paint that vision for the future for all of us, that if we were here ending hunger, what can you imagine that the final tweet might be, or tweet by 2030, that one of the people that you helped, who was impacted through your work, what would you want them to say? And I'm going to challenge the audience, when you hear this, is to really imagine that 2030 state and get ready to tweet it. So I'll turn to you, Deanna, first.
Finally, farm to fork includes farm workers.
Mary, 2030, tweet someone that you helped.
Yeah, so one of my favorite food justice advocates is Fannie Lou Hamer. And she once said, if you give a hungry person a fish, they'll eat it. But if you give them land, they'll grow it. And I'm so inspired by that. And so I hope that someone by 2030 would say, Market 7 has planted seeds that has harvested into total elimination of food apartheid across the country. And I hope that that person also says, Fannie, I hope we made you proud.
Mindy, I know you have bold ambitions as well. 2030, helping the underserved, your vision.
I know that I wrote something different earlier, which I can't remember at this point, but if we were going with that scenario, I would hope that somebody would say that food is medicine, somebody nourished my soul and they saved my life, and we are no longer facing food insecurity in this country.
Mo, thinking about 2030, what's your vision?
Yeah, so first, I just want to take this opportunity to thank the amazing team that we have at Shipt. None of the work that we do would not be possible without the way that they live our values, putting people first each and every day. So now my tweet. My tweet would be, working together, we put things like food insecurity and food deserts in the past in this country.
So I think you guys have gotten us a lot of questions about this aspiration now. There are thousands of people listening online. One of the questions is, how can they get involved in your work and help make food more affordable to the underserved in communities? You want to start?
Yeah, I mean, if you're interested in volunteering and engaging, go to our website, ufwfoundation.org, in Spanish, sisepuede.org. And often we engage individuals in however they'd like to participate. So we have had volunteers at food distributions, on our call center, individuals who have helped with research, phone banked to talk to farm workers. So if you're interested, go ahead and go online and sign up.
Mary, how about you? How can they get involved?
Yes, well, I'm also going to give the millennial plug and say follow us on Instagram and Twitter.
They're already tweeting at this
Yes,
point.
at Market, the number 7 DC. That's at Market, the number 7 DC on Instagram and Twitter. Please follow us. We do updates all the time about what we need, what we're doing in community. And if you have any direct thing that you want to do with Market 7, from financing to getting involved as a volunteer, please email us info@market7dc.com. We are always open to help over at Market 7, and we have so much more work to do in community, so we welcome all help.
And lots of seeds to plant.
Yeah.
Mindy.
I would just say that there's a food bank near almost everybody. And so food banks are desperately in need of donations, but also your time. If you've got time to donate to volunteer at a food bank, please do. Whether it's 2 hours a week or 2 hours a month, they can use your help. And that's a great way to get connected to your community, but also to really embed yourself in the situation to fully understand. But the other way that people can get involved is vote. Vote for people who are going to address food insecurity in this country.
Great. So a couple things come to mind in response to that question, Aaron. First is, feel free to engage with us as well on social media, as well as we have a community page, shipped.com/community, to figure out how you can connect with us and get engaged with some of the work. One of the things, just going back to my comment earlier about our accelerator, we're excited to identify more, small local businesses that we can partner with and provide resources to get them on our platform. We are going to be prioritizing minority-owned businesses. Our commitment is that roughly 50% of the businesses that we support will be retailers that are in the grocery, beverage, and essentials space. We want to add 10 in the first year, next year, and then grow that to 30. And so, shipped.com/community is where you can sign up as well.
Thank you. So we have time for just one or two more questions, and let's see if we can get this in this lightning round. So Mindy, this one's directly to you. What is your message for people who are truly listening today and might be embarrassed to participate in federal nutrition assistance programs?
I was that person. My mom was that person. I would just say that, food is a basic necessity, and at some point you have to put your pride aside and understand that at any given point in any one of our lives, we may need a hand up, and that's what it is. It's a hand up. It doesn't define who you are. It doesn't, keep you in those circumstances, but it helps you to move forward. And as food is medicine, it's what keeps your body healthy so that you can move forward, so you can address all the other issues that you are trying to address to move forward in your life. So, swallow that pride like I had to, and just get out there, get the food that you need, get the help that you need, and you just got to do it. I can't say it in any other way. I was that same person, and I had to look at my son's little face and say, we need this help. And that's okay. We all need help at some time.
Mary, you want to jump in? Anybody else want to jump in on that one? Okay. Kamu, you are helping to make Shipt the most diverse tech company, and you just announced some big goals. How are you going about doing that?
Just the last part of that question?
To be the most diverse tech company, how are you going to do this?
We've made a tremendous amount of progress on that. And one of the things that I articulated as part of my vision when I became CEO of Shipt about 6 months ago is that my aspiration is that we will be the most diverse company in technology. As I mentioned, we made a ton of progress along that goal, but the work is never done. And that means the makeup of our employee base, my leadership team. Today, we are 70% people of color and 60% women. Again, we're proud of that. but the work is never done. That also means that, and we've been talking about this today, minority-owned businesses on our platforms, ensuring that we are focused there, as well as the makeup of our shopper and driver community to make sure that they look like the communities that they serve. And so for us, it's comprehensive. We're pleased with the progress that we've made, but you'll never hear me say that we've done enough.
Well, I just want to thank the panelists here for really providing that 2030 vision, your compassion for the underserved. Let's give the panelists a round of warm applause. Thank you so much.